Hi there, welcome to Weaving Words. I'm your host, Eric Wordweaver Sjerven, Gothi of the Ridgar folk here in East Texas, and I'd like to share with you today a story from the Poetic Edda. This one is Lokasenna, or Loki's fluting. Now, we know a lot about flutings from looking at lore. There's a very good one in Beowulf, and there's of course this one here, and there's some others that appear throughout the lore. And a fluting itself, some will say flyting, it's F-L-Y-T-I-N-G. In Old Norse it would be more like a fluting. This is ye old rap battle. This is where two learned individuals would stand and trade lines with one another. It's something of a roast, if you will. The idea behind it being that they challenge one another in each. It's a game of one-upmanship. It's a game wherein they exchange barbs and jibes. Now, in this one in particular, Loki's fluting exemplifies Loki's betrayal of the gods. Now, there's some back and forth amongst the heathen community about Loki's role within the Aesir. Now, as we know, Loki himself was, blood brother to Odin, i.e. he was taken in by oath, and they swore together that they would be brothers forever, and they would not share ale without each other, etc., etc., etc. Well, this is the closing of Loki's chapter with the Aesir, as far as his being tied to the tribe itself, and this is wherein he is cast out. For those of you that don't know that particular story, the quick is that Loki is responsible for Baldur's death. He tricks his blind brother Hod to slay Baldur. Baldur's blind brother Hod to slay Baldur with mistletoe, which is the one thing in all the worlds that Frigg did not exact a promise from, an oath from, that they would not harm her son. Thusly Baldur dies, and this initiates Ragnarok. So not only that, Loki is also responsible for Baldur not returning from Helheim when Hel was ready to let him go, if every being in creation wept for him. Loki hid himself as a crone on a mountain and refused to weep for Baldur, thus trapping him in Helheim and preventing Baldur's return, initiating Ragnarok. This is from the Poetic Edda, which you will find in many different translations. The one that I prefer is the Hollander. I've also looked at Bellows and several others. The list of translations goes on and on and on. It is a wonderful little story. This one comes as a request from one of my tribesmen, so hope you enjoy it, man. Here we go. Now, as is often the case, the gods gathered for feast, in celebration, to celebrate Frith and to celebrate their tribe. And there is a specific place the gods like to go. A friend of theirs, Aegir, giant of the sea, has a grand hall beneath the sea. The sea itself is known as Aegir's roof. And in that world beneath, he has a grand hall that is large enough to accommodate all of the gods and goddesses, to throw the grandest of parties. And this is where the gods gather. Aegir frequently hosts the gods and goddesses, for he is friend of the Aesir. He treats them well, and they all gather and share grand times. To this feast come Odin and Frigg. Sif, but not Thor, for Thor was away in Jotunheim, chasing giants, so he would not make this particular party. Bragi was there, and his wife Idun. Njord and his wife Skadi were there. So were Frøy and Frøya. Frøy's servants, Brigdir and Boila, were there as well. Now Aegir himself had two wonderful servants that served the gods when they gathered for feast. This is Fimifeng and Eldir. These two servants were well spoken of, beloved by the Aesir, for they treated them well, and they treated them like good hosts. They served the tables, set the tables, and saw that no one went without need. Now in this grand hall, the ale brought in of itself, it magically would bring itself to the table, that the gods may imbibe. The great cauldron of ale, bubbling forth with an endless supply of joy and frivolity. It was a grand party, a wonderful gathering of friends and folk, and the gods did enjoy themselves. Now there was one omission from this guest list. One Loki. For Loki was not invited to this party. And this runs afoul of his and Odin's oath to each other, because it was sworn between the two that one would not drink without the other. One would not sit at feast and party without the presence of the other, as sworn blood brothers oft will do. Now, as he was passing by Aegir's hall and he sees the party, he sees the frivolity going on inside, his ire is raised. Now, of course, Loki doesn't see that his own actions have led to his being uninvited to this particular party, because at this point in time, the Aesir had had enough of Loki's betrayals and Loki's games, for Loki was more trouble than Loki was worth. So, Loki runs into Eldir, Aegir's servant outside, and he says to Aegir, "What party is this inside? What gathered host sits at drink and sings so loudly? What do they sing of? What do they speak of?" Eldir says that the gathered folk are the Aesir, and they sing of their weapons. They sing of their joys and of their glories. They sing of wonders. They sing of love. Now Loki counters Eldir and says, "I think I will go in, for I wish to be a part of this. And I have hatred and bile to spit upon the gods for sitting without me, as they have sworn they never would do." And Eldir, of course, counters and counsels, "This is ill-advised, Loki. If you enter and wish to spit baleful words, expect the gods will return the favour to you." Loki pays him no heed and saunters inside, and upon entering the grand hall, he steps in with arrogance and a smug look, and the hall falls silent as the gods look upon who has entered. So Loki addresses the gathered tribe and says, "Welcome me, the son of Loki, Lot, for far I've fared. Set me a place at your table. Bring me food and drink, or else bid me away." Bragi speaks up and says, "There will be no place for you, Loki, for the gods know well what company they wish to keep. It is best that you leave." Loki counters and says, "I will remind you, the gods all gathered here, and Odin you, with whom I have shared blood, with whom I have shared oaths, that never were we to sit at feast apart, and always together. What say you now, Odin, of this blood bond, and no seat for Loki?" Now Odin addresses his son Vidar. Says, "Vidar, step aside. Let the wolf's father sit, lest evil words he spit here in Aegir's hall." For Odin knew that in order to protect the Grithstead, he must honour this oath. He must let Loki sit at table with them, even though he is loath to do so. For he knows what kind of man Loki is. He knows his worth. But he knows that he must honour this oath at least one last time, and let the father of monsters sit with the gods at feast. So Vidar rises and offers Loki a horn, but before Loki can drink, Loki speaks up. He says, "Hail to ye gods, hail to ye goddesses all, hail to the gathered throng. Save that god who yonder sits, one Bragi." And Bragi rose to say, "A horse and sword from my own coffers I give, and a ring there besides, if Loki you will stay your tongue and make no hatred amongst the gathered gods, and raise their wrath." Then Loki says to Bragi, "O Bragi, of rings and horses you shall never be rich. Forever with either you will be without. For of the gathered gods and elves here within, least in battle you are, and shyest are you of the shot. Then Brage counters and says, Loki, if we were outside and not here in hallowed Aegir's hall, I would counter you, and I would carry away your head neath my arm in payment for the lies you spread. Then Loki counters, Brage, brave are you there upon your bench, but your deeds do not match. If you wish to fight, adorner of benches, then out let's go, for no hero gets to think so far ahead. Then Idun speaks up, Bragi's wife, ever the weaver of Frith, and charges him, Bragi, hold your tongue. Speak not such words of spite in Aegir's hall. Keep in mind Loki's kinship. Know that he is chosen as wish son and is of the tribe. Then Loki turns his bile upon Idun and says, Be silent, Idun, for I know you are the most lustful in love. For your washed bright arms you did spread around my brother's slayer. Then to the gathered gods Idun turns for support and says, I speak not words of spite to Loki. Rather I defend him, and I calm the ale-hot Bragi, for I do not wish that the two should fiercely fight. Then Gefjon speaks up, and Gefjon says, Why, gathered gods, do we exchange hateful words here in Aegir's hall, well known as Loki for his mockery and his hatred for the gods in Asgard? Then Loki says to Gefjon, Be silent, for I know the lad that led you to an evil life, who sold thee a necklace for your leg about him thrown. Then Odin counsels Loki and says, Be silent, Loki. What fool are you to rouse Gefjon's hate? For it is often said that the fate she sees for each man is then set. Then to Odin Loki says, Be silent, Odin, for you are not fair in giving out the spoils of war. All too often you favor the baser of those in battle who not should have won. And Odin says, Though I may have unjustly given out the spoils of war and favored the baser of men, it was you who spent 8 winters 'neath the earth, milking the cows as a maid, and babies you bore there. How unmanly your soul must seem. Then Loki counters and says, It is said that in Samsøy a witch's work you did, as a woman casting spells amongst men. How unmanly your soul must seem. Then up speaks Frigg, the wife of Odin, to quell this bantering spirit, and says, Of the deeds of old let us not speak, for what's done is done. What ye two have done in days gone by should not be spoken of among men. Then to Frigga turns Loki and says, Be silent, Frigga, for you are Fjorgen's wife, but ever lustful in love. Though Fithrir's wife thou art, both Vili and they to your bosom have taken. Then Frigga counters, If a son like Balder were here with me now in Aegir's hall, you would not go forth from the sons of gods untried in combat. Then Loki, So be it, Frigg, you will have me tell more of the evil I know, for mine is the fault that is to blame, that Balder no longer rides home to your hall. Then Freya speaks up, says, Mad are you, Loki, that you would hear before the gods declare the evil and shame you have wrought. For Frigga knows the fate of all, though of it she never speaks. Loki, be silent, Freya, for full well I know that sinless you are not in this. Of all the gods gathered here, each one as your lover has lain. Freya, full of lies is your tongue, Loki, and soon you will know that you have raised the wrath of the gods and goddesses here gathered, and it is in sorrow that you shall return home. Loki, be silent, Freya, for a whore are you, as we all know on ill you're bent. For in your brother's bed the gathered gods did find you, when you did fart. Then up speaks Freya's father, Njord, and he says, little harm does it do that a lady should have a lord, a lover, or both. But why comes here to the gathered gods this womanish god, whom babies has borne? Loki. Be silent, Njord, for well it is known that you were sent to the gods as hostage, and that the daughters of Hymir did use your mouth once as their own personal toilet. Njord. Though to the gods I was given as hostage, great has been my gain, and here in my time the son I have borne, whom no man hates, and is beloved amongst all the gods. Loki. Hold your tongue, Njord. Don't boast too high, for no longer will I keep it hid, that of course you hadn't such a beautiful son, when with your own sister you had lain. Then up speaks Tyr, and says, Frey is the best of the gods, and well spoken of here. No maid, nor wife of man shall he harm, and he frees the bound from their fetters. Loki. Silent now, Tyr, for between two men never could friendship you weave. Or rather should I tell how your hand once was by Fenrir rent from thee. Tyr. My hand I have lost, but your son lost you, and ill fares the wolf that in fetters lays bound till the fall of the gods. Be silent, Tyr, for from me your wife a son did win. Not a penny were you paid, nor an inch were you righted in this ill, methinks. Then up speaks Freyr, who says, by the mouth of the river the wolf is bound, till the gods to destruction do go. So too shall you be, Loki, if your tongue you do not mind. Bound you will be, you forger of ills. Loki. The daughter of Gymir did you buy with gold, and your sword gave way to boot. When the sons of Muspel through Mirkwood ride, weaponless shall you wait, you wretch. Then up spoke Bygdir, who said, if I was so high born as Lord Freyr, I would crush to the marrow this croaker of ills, and beat all his body to bits. Loki. What little creature is this that goes snuffling and snapping about? By Freyr's ears will you ever be found, or muttering away at the mill. Bygdir I'm called, and nimble am I, as the gods and men do allow. And joyous am I that gathered in hall the gods do sit to drink. Silent, Bygdir, for never fair were you in the setting of places for men. And when they went to fight, was it not in the straw upon the floor that they looked for thee? Then up speaks Heimdall. Drunk are you, Loki, and mad are your deeds. Why don't you leave this to sit? For drinking too much can drive any man to take no heed of his tongue. Be silent, Heimdall, for ages ago an ill fate for you was set. With back straight as a board ever must you stand and watch as warden of the gods. Then spoke Skadi. Light are you, Loki, though in freedom not long will you swish your tail. For on a rock by the river will the gods bind you, with entrails rent from your cold, dead son. Loki. Though on the rocks the gods may bind me, with bowels from my frost-cold son, first and last to the battle was I, when Thiazi was caught. Skadi. First and last wert thou, from the battle where Thiazi was caught. From my home and fields, counsel cold will ever come to you. Loki. You did not speak so when you took me to bed. for much must be told if we are to air our sins. Then forth came Sif, bearing a crystal cup, and in it she poured mead for Loki, and bore it to him. Here, Loki, take this crystal clear cup, and know that by me, of all the gods, you are blameless found. Loki drank from the cup, and said, Lonely you must have been, if to shy from other men while your husband was away. But one I know did claim your arms, and that was Loki, the crafter of lies. Then up spoke Boila, who said, The mountains do thunder, and think I hear Lord Thor has come to home, and with his anger and rage he shall silence this slanderer of gods and men. Loki then said, Be silent, Boila, for thou art Bugvir's wife. No greater shame has come to the gods. For cover are you in filth. Into the scene came Thor, weary from his travels, as he looks over the gathered host, and he sees a measure of what has befallen. And to Loki he speaks, Unmanly one, cease, lest the mighty hammer Mjolnir shall close thy mouth, and from your neck your shoulder cliff shall it rend, and end your miserable life. Loki, lo, in comes the son of the earth. Why speaks you so fiercely, Thor? Not so fiercely shall you go forth to battle the wolf, when it Sigfather swallows up. Thor, unmanly one, cease, lest the mighty hammer Mjolnir shut your mouth. I will hurl thee up and into the east, where nor men nor gods shall hear from thee. To Jotunheim on the east road did you fare, but to men you should say no more, for was it not in the glove of a giant that you forgot you were Thor? Unmanly one, cease, lest the mighty hammer Mjolnir shut thy mouth. By my right hand, with Hrungnir Slayer, will I smite thee till thy bones are all broken. Loki, for some time yet I think to live, for were not the rungs of Skirmir's wallet a bit too tight for you, when your meat you could not get, and faint you felt from hunger? Unmanly one, cease, lest the mighty hammer Mjolnir shut thy mouth. The slayer of Hrungnir shall send thee to Helheim, and down to the doors of death. Loki, I have spoken my mind, and whetted my will, and now I shall take my leave, for thou fightest well, I ween. But Aegir, ale thou hast brewed, but expect no more feasts like this to fare, for all that thou hast will rage with flickering fire, and your back shall be burnt. Then Loki flew from Aegir's hall, with the gods in chase. He hid in Franangar waterfall, in the form of a salmon. There the gods did catch him up in a net, and to a stone bound him with the entrails of his son Vali. His son Narvi was changed into a wolf. Skadi took a poisonous snake and draped it over his head so that the venom dripped down on his face to torture him for all time. Loki's beloved wife Sigyn comes and sits beside him with a bowl to catch the venom and to save Loki from the pain. But alas, the bowl does fill, and every so often she must turn away to empty it. And when she does, the pain from the venom dripping on Loki's face is so great that he writhes unable to break the fetters fashioned from his son's own entrails. We on Midgard know this as earthquakes. Thus ends the story of Lokasenna. Now, this is a wonderful little telling. I did paraphrase a lot, and I tried to change up some of the words because I'm fuzzy about how copyright works with translations, so I don't want to use any translator's specific words. Rather, try to paraphrase and retell in my own words so as to avoid any kind of copyright infringement. But this story, of course, takes place after the slaying of Balder, which is ultimately the act and deed that Loki has brought upon, that has damaged him in the eyes of the gods. So herein we see the falling apart, the sundering of Frith, and ultimately Loki's binding. Now, as we know, Loki stays fettered to the rock until Ragnarok comes, at which point he is set free when Fenris breaks free, and all the monsters are broken free from the fetters, and he leads the armies of the dead against the gods at the helm of Naglfar, the ship crafted from the fingernails of dead men. If you like today's story, please subscribe to the channel and ding the bell. Make sure you ding the bell, whichever side it's on, because I don't know, it flips the video when I encode it. So ding the bell. Subscribing alone won't get you all of my videos in your news feed, but dinging the bell will get you that little pop-up so that you'll see the next story that comes out. Now, this will subscribe you to both The Raven's Call and to Weaving Words. If you want to follow me on Facebook, do please at Word-Weaver Productions. That's Word-Weaver Productions. It's a Facebook group, open group. I approve everybody that comes in so you guys can be a part of the conversation. I can get some feedback from you guys. Let me know what stories you like. Let me know which ones you want to hear. You want more God stories? Do you want more of my original work? Do you want more like folk tales, troll tales from Norway and Sweden, Finland, Denmark, things like that? I love to tell these tales, and admittedly, these take a lot more work and a lot more preparation. This is a longer video, obviously. I'm not sure what the final editing time is once I edit it all down, but just so you guys know, the raw footage is well over an hour, and I have to go and weed down into one chunk. So it's a lot of work that goes into these things, especially the stories. They're longer videos, so I don't put these out nearly as often, but when I do, I really love them, and I really love to share these tales with you guys. Storytelling is such an important part of what we do. So please like, comment, subscribe, ding the bell, follow me on Facebook, hit me up on Twitter if you want at E_Sjerven, and then yeah. Share out the YouTube feed for anybody you think might be interested in this. You can share the specific playlist if you just want to share like the storytelling blog, or if you want to share The Raven's Call, or you can share out the channel as a whole if you want to share just everything I've got going on. In the meantime, guys, let me know what you think. Give me feedback. Let me know what stories you want to hear, okay? Hey, have a good day.